tales of horror that will give you the creeps.
This is going to be extremely painful, Mr. Barrow.
The most fun you'll ever have being scared. Creepshow, rated R.
Now playing at a theater near you.
Hey guys, it's OCB Communications, and welcome to my review of Creepshow. Before I actually get to the review, I want to thank Adam Watson. Thank you. He sent me this a while back. Very kind of you. He sent me a bunch of stuff. I'll get to the other stuff you sent me pretty soon. This was amazing. I mean, this is a great DVD. 2-disc special edition for fans of Creepshow. This is a fantastic DVD. This is a really, really awesome DVD. Some great features too. Even a good commentary. I don't usually listen to audio commentaries, but I really enjoyed the audio commentary on this with George A. Romero and Tom Savini. It was very entertaining, informative, and a lot of fun. So, just like the movie, which I find to be a lot of fun, I found the commentary to be just as enjoyable as the actual film. Anyway, there might be a little bit of deja vu here in this review because after this review is posted, I'm going to post a commentary to my friend Matt, Rambo Rap for Life. So if you watch that before you saw this or you watched it afterwards, you're going to kind of hear a little bit of deja vu regarding how I was introduced to the film and so forth. But, you know, I just felt like if I was going to do a commentary, I might as well do a review. And since I'm starting to do, and I wanted to do this for Adam Watson too, because he sent me this, and I wanted to, you know, why not? You know, do a review of the movie as well as the DVD, which is a great DVD. Good quality, great features. Shame Warner Brothers DVD in the US has jack shit. But here in the UK, if you have a region-free DVD player, you can get this Creepshow 2-disc special edition, and it has a ton of features. And there was a recent Blu-ray that was released by Second Sight Films, which transfers the same features, but also has a new commentary. I think with the director of photography or cinematographer. The cinematographer was Michael Gornick, so I don't know if it was with him or not. Yeah, it's got a great commentary. It's got some deleted scenes. It's got Tom Savini's behind-the-scenes footage, blooper reel. It's got the original theatrical trailer. It's got a great remastered print of the film. It's got a great documentary, Just Desserts, The Making of Creepshow, which is feature length. It's a really, really fun documentary for fans of the film. And yeah, so great DVD. And once again, all the thanks to the world to Adam Watson for sending this to me, all the way from the UK. I think at least I think it was definitely either sometime this year or at least sometime last year. But I definitely got to say, big props to Adam Watson for sending this to me. Anyway, Creepshow, it's my all-time favorite horror film. And I think one of the reasons why is because there's a little bit of nostalgia that come into play with it. It is the first horror film I ever saw all the way through. And I think that's a big part of it. As much as I don't want to throw in the nostalgia thing and act like that's a big deal, it kind of is because it is the first horror film I ever saw all the way through, so it does have a special place in my heart for that. But unlike RoboCop 3, for instance, which is the first movie that I saw RoboCop in and made me fall in love with the character, Creepshow is not a piece of shit, and Creepshow still holds up really well. So I definitely had to throw that out there. Just because it's something I grew up with and it's the first way I was introduced to something, doesn't necessarily mean it's great. And RoboCop 3 is a prime example of that. Now, Creepshow is also, so it's the first film I saw all the way through. A horror film anyway, not the first movie I saw all the way through. I saw a bunch of movies when I was younger. But it was the first horror film I saw when I was a kid because my stepdad actually, who's actually now my official stepfather because he and my mom finally got married this year, which is really, really great. So I can technically actually call him dad now instead of just a friend. And so my stepdad Troy, this Creepshow was one of his favorites. And it was one of the few VHS tapes that he brought back from where he was living with his friend when he moved in with my mom. So one night, you know, the cover always caught my eye. The one with the skeleton ticket taker guy and the tagline that says the most fun you'll ever have being scared. And it always caught my eye. And one day I finally asked him if it was okay, if I could watch it, because only if I watch it with you. And even my mom was kind of apprehensive, but Troy was like, "Hey, it's not that bad." So we eventually watched it, and I really enjoyed it. It just started that passion. It's kind of like I first saw Creepshow, and then I was kind of like this kid. I was like Stephen King's kid right here. I saw Creepshow for the first time when I was a kid, and I was just hooked. And I would bring the VHS to my dad, my actual dad, my birth father's house, and I'd watch it with him, and I'd have a lot of great memories associated with watching Creepshow with my father. So so much so that we even had an in joke, because the Father's Day segment. So every Father's Day, we'd have an in joke with each other. My dad would be like, "It's Father's Day, and I want my cake," and it was just great. It was funny. So there's a lot of fun, really good memories associated with the film. So I think that's the way that's how it is for anybody's favorite of anything, is that there's a lot of good memories associated with it for it to be considered a favorite of theirs. As well as there's a little bit of nostalgia here, but that's not really a bad thing. Every time I watch the Creepshow, I get a smile on my face. I love this movie. I not only have the movie, I not only have the DVD, I also have the comic book, which I'm just gonna grab right now, which I finally have a copy of it. And Adam Watson also tried to send me the comic. He also tried to send me this, but it got lost in the mail, and for some reason, and it got sent back to him. Which I gotta say, right off the bat, the customs are kind of being a bunch of asses. All I gotta say is I don't know what to say, Adam. I mean, I appreciate everything that you're sending me, but it sucks that you try to send me some stuff, and then customs sends it back because they're being a bunch of dicks. But anyway, this is great. This is really good. I got this for like cheap on eBay finally. So I have my own copy of the Creepshow comic, and it's just like the movie. It's got some really great artwork in it too. I mean, it's a fantastic comic book. For fans, Bernie Wrightson's artwork is great. And yeah, for fans of the movie, definitely a must own for fans of Creepshow. I'm just really glad I finally have this comic book. So anyway, see, I love it. I love this movie. I not only have the comic book finally, but I also have the film on Laserdisc. I love to get the film on a CED, pass it into electronic disc. I have it on the clamshell VHS from Warner Home Video and storage in Oklahoma, which I loved. I mean, and it was so crazy. When I first got that VHS, I was literally like the day before, the day of when I found it, I was thinking it would be so awesome to get the clamshell of Creepshow, if there is one. And then I went to a thrift store, a pawn shop somewhere, and I found it. And then I walked all the way home in Oklahoma to my dad's place in Oklahoma, singing the song from Hardware. This is what you want, this is what you get, this is what you want, this is what you get. Duh. It was great. It was awesome. So that's another good memory I have associated with Creepshow. I'm kind of kicking myself though that I missed the opportunity. If I had known about this a month in advance, I missed the opportunity to see Creepshow in the theater because it showed at some theater over here in Washington somewhere, and I missed the chance, and I'm kind of kicking myself over that. But it is what it is. I'll get another opportunity someday, hopefully. Hopefully, maybe it'll show at the Hollywood Theater, and that'd be pretty cool. Where I saw the Monster Squad. But anyway, yeah, Creepshow, my favorite horror film. Mainly because a lot of it's the memories that are associated with it, but also because I just love it. It's just so much fun to watch. I think it's another big reason why it's endured for so long, because it really is the most fun you'll ever have being scared. Now, Creepshow, now we're getting the actual review here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little bit of, I'm going to talk about the cast and the crew, and I'm going to, sprinkle in a bits of trivia here and there. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to, after I talk about each segment and review each segment, then I'm going to talk about why Creepshow works. Why I think it's a great film, and then I'll give my final rating. So anyway, Creepshow was released in 1982, and it was it was actually an independent film, but it was released by Warner Brothers. It was produced by Laurel Entertainment Incorporated, a United Film Distribution company. Laurel Entertainment was the company that I think George Romero started. So in the commentary, George Romero and Tom Savini were talking about it was so much fun to do Creepshow. Tom Savini was saying that it was so much fun in those days before the studio interference, before the George Romero started doing studio films, which started with Monkey Shines. And Tom Savini said it was so much fun in those days because it didn't even feel like it was work. It felt like it was playtime. It felt like it was, it wasn't a job. It felt like it was just, we're just having fun. And that shows. That really shows in this film. And I think that's another reason why it's so great, is because it's just so much fun. And you can tell that the people behind it just had so much passion for the project they were working on. And they enjoyed it so much. And they just had a lot of fun. The actors and the makeup effects guys and everything. It was just a labor of love from everybody involved. And it helps that there wasn't any studio interference. That definitely does help a lot. So yeah, it was produced by Laurel Entertainment. It was released on May 16th, 1982 at the Cannes Film Festival for a brief little bit. Yeah, Creepshow played at the Cannes Film Festival in 1982. That's not the kind of thing you would ever see at the Cannes Film Festival nowadays. And then it actually had its official release on November 12th of 1982. And it had a budget of $8 million, which is used really well. And it made about $21 million in the US, which isn't a huge hit. But Creepshow doesn't matter. Even though it wasn't a huge hit, it still inspired a sequel. I'm only mentioning Creepshow 2. As far as I'm concerned, that piece of shit Creepshow 3 isn't even Creepshow 3. That's not Creepshow 3. That's Shit Show 3. It's not Creepshow 3. I'm not even fucking going to mention it as in the same breath as Creepshow, because it doesn't deserve to be called Creepshow. I'd rather call Tales from the Dark Side the movie Creepshow 3 than that piece of shit. Hot dog choking, bullshit wearing, fuck face farting piece of fucking shit. I hate that fucking movie, and I will watch it again and rant on it again just to put the final nail in the fucking coffin later. So stay tuned for that. That's gonna be a blast. But anyway, getting back to actually Creepshow. So yeah, like I was saying, it didn't do super great, but you could definitely say it's become a cult classic, and it definitely does deserve that. And I don't even know if I want to call it a cult classic. It's a classic. Creepshow is a classic. It's a horror classic, and it's widely considered by a lot of people and horror critics, to be the best horror anthology ever made, and I can totally understand why. It's a great movie. So anyway, it's directed by George Romero, which is huge. He was one of the biggest masters of horror at the time in the 1980s. And not only do you have George Romero directing, but you have a screenplay by Stephen King. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This is a rare opportunity. A movie where George Romero is directing it and Stephen King is writing it. I mean, that's really impressive. I mean, master of horror with the film genre at the time, and then a master of horror with the book genre, all coming together to bring you a horror movie. I mean, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Yeah, screenplays by Stephen King. And it's produced by Richard P. Rubinstein, who worked with George Romero on a lot of other stuff, including Tales from the Dark Side, which was supposed to be Creepshow the series, but they couldn't get the rights to the name. So, and it's got a really eclectic cast. I mean, you got, Joe King, who is Stephen King's actual son, who plays Billy, the kid in the film, who is Tom Atkins' son, he's uncredited as Stan, who's this child-abusing asshole alcoholic father. He's like, I'm tired of all this horror crap. What did I tell you? Stop reading this horror crap. It's crap. And at least it's better than those sex books. The sex books that you hide in your dresser. Smack. So Tom Atkins is such an ass in this movie. He's very unlikable. And so that's what we have in the prologue. You have Joe King as Billy. Tom Atkins as Stan, an uncredited role. Jean Saracini as Billy's mother in the prologue and epilogue segments. In the Father's Day segment, you have John Lorimer, who plays Nathan Grantham, this old fucking bastard. Viveca Lindfors is Bedelia Grantham. You bitch! You call me a bitch! This, sort of drunken, old lady who, oh, chair overturned, bad form, daddy, bad form. I love her. I thought she was a lot of fun in this sort of drunk Aunt Bedelia. She improv then a lot of her stuff, a lot of her sequences in that segment. You have Elizabeth Reagan as Cass, Warner Shook as Richard Grantham, Ed Harris, where he dances like a fool and dies like a bitch as Hank, Carrie Nye as Sylvia Grantham, Peter Messer as Yarbo, John Amplas from Martin, the guy who played Martin in Martin, plays the undead uh, Nathan Grantham. He plays the undead Nathan Grantham in the skeleton suit. And I thought it was pretty cool, actually, John Amplas. And Nan Mong as Mrs. Danvers. Lonesome Def and Jordy Verrill has Stephen King as Jordy Verrill. He was asked by, excuse me, still getting over a little bit of the cold here. But he was asked by Stephen King. No, Stephen King wasn't asked by. Stephen King was asked by Stephen King to do what Stephen King asked him to Stephen King. No. He was asked by George Romero to play his character Jordy Verrill like he's Wile E. Coyote. And that's what he did. But Stephen King hates it. Stephen King hates George Romero for asking him to play it like Wile E. Coyote. Bingo O'Malley plays Jordy's father, as well as the doctor. Although it says John Colicos as the doctor in there, really it's not. It's Bingo O'Malley plays both roles. He plays the doctor and the father in that and in the Jordy Verrill segment. Something That Tied You Over is Leslie Nielsen as Richard Vickers, this really despicable douchebag he's really just he's making snuff films for a living and just on his private beachfront house and drowning people. Such a scumbag, Leslie Nielsen in this segment. Gaylen Ross from Dawn of the Dead is Becky Vickers, Ted Danson's girlfriend. Ted Danson plays Harry Wentworth. Ted Danson, it was funny, like when he showed up in the waterlogged zombie makeup, he didn't want to show up in it around his kids because he thought his kids would be scared. And his kid showed up on set one day, and his kid was just like, "Hi, Dad." It wasn't scary at all. It was totally not what Ted Danson thought it would be. The Crate, which is my favorite segment, stars Hal Holbrook, who's just great in this. Adrienne Barbeau is Wilma. Billy Northrup, who is the biggest bitch ever. It's like the most bitchiest bitch of all in this segment. Henry, what would you ever do without me, Henry? And then Friz Weaver is great as Dexter, and then you have Don Kiefer plays Mike the janitor, and I like Don Kiefer as well. And there's a bunch of really good cast members in that segment. And then the last segment, they're creeping up on you. E.G. Marshall is great as Upton Pratt, who's like one of the fucking, I mean, he's such a despicable dick. He's such a dickhole. It's like there's a really, really just rich. It's a typical like rich fuckhead, and you just hate this guy, but you love to hate him. David Early also plays White. David Early's been in a lot of other George Romero films, and so there's a lot of real, great cast, really very eclectic, fun cast. A lot of the film's production was shot in and around the Pittsburgh area. In fact, most of the film was shot in Empty's all-girls school located in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. The school was converted into a film studio, and the episodes "The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill" and "They're Creeping Up on You," as well as the prologue and epilogue, were filmed in their entirety at the former school. Several additional locations were used for filming as well, like the Crate. During the Crate sequence, most of the interior and exterior shots for the university sequence were filmed at Carnegie Mellon University. Romero was actually from the Carnegie Mellon University. He graduated from there. with Margaret Morrison Hall serving as Amberson Hall. The backyard party was filmed in Romero's own backyard and at his former residence on Amberson Drive in Shadyside, Pennsylvania. Father's Day was filmed on location at a mansion in the Pittsburgh suburb of Fox Chapel, Pennsylvania. And Something That Tides You Over was filmed on location at a beachfront residence in New Jersey. And Father's Day, what's funny about that in the commentary, Georgia Romero mentions how persnickety and picky the owner of the mansion was. Like when they ended up putting some like footprints that looked like zombie wet muddy footprints on the floor. The owner came in and he was pissed. He was like, "There's footprints off my floor. I don't want you messing up my floor." And he wasn't very happy about that. But I thought that was kind of funny. Is that you're letting somebody film a horror film in your house. You know they're going to use it as a set, right? I mean, you shouldn't have let them use it in the first place. If you're going to be that whiny about it. But anyway, yeah, there's some really interesting sort of fun stuff there. The cockroaches that were used for their creeping up on you sequence was really a pain. They were hissing cockroaches that were imported from Guatemala because Romero wasn't able to obtain an export permit for them, so they were imported on a temporary permit. And this meant that each one had to be counted before and after each shot, and accurate records kept of the number of dead specimens. The cockroaches were stored in styrofoam egg cartons kept inside a large van that was filled with high levels of carbon dioxide to keep the cockroaches quiet. And in the final scene of the segment, which the room was almost filled with cockroaches, many of the apparent insects were actually nuts and raisins as specified by Tom Savini in the commentary track on this DVD. And also, George Romero and Tom Savini were like creeped out by the bugs. Like all this other stuff didn't bug them at all. But zombies, blood, gore, whatever. Bugs just was the one thing that really creeped them out, really gave them the heebie-jeebies. And for the sequence at the end, where Upton Pratt explodes, where the bugs just pour out of him, Tom Savini was wondering what he was going to do with that. And I think it was either George Romero or Stephen King, who said that use some toilet paper. And that's what he did. He used toilet paper underneath the latex model of E.G. Marshall for the bugs, for the cockroaches to burst out. And also another reason why I mentioned in the commentary, Giorgio Romero decided to do he imported the cockroaches because it cost him a lot less. Because he found out if he tried to get them by, pound or whatever, it would cost him like $150,000 just for cockroaches, to get them here in the United States. So he got them imported and actually had people go in a cave somewhere in Guatemala, somewhere in there in Mexico, in a cave that's just filled of these cockroaches because the cockroaches like to get in bat, like the form of bat guano. And so he was just telling about this really creepy image. It's even creepier than the images in They're Creeping Up on You segment of just these people in spelunking gear, just going into a cave that already has bats in it, but now, there's bat shit everywhere, but not that and only that, but just a wave of fucking cockroaches. It makes my skin crawl just thinking about it, just wading through this wave of cockroaches. And George Romero mentioned that there was like a bat or some kind of bird that ended up on the ground, and the cockroaches turned it inside out. There were so many cockroaches that they ended up turning it inside out. I mean, that makes my stomach twist inside out just thinking about that. Just, yee. But anyway, I thought I'd just throw that. This is going to be a labor of love, folks. This review will be as long, however long as it's going to be. But I just wanted to throw a little bit of that sort of trivia out there. I thought that was interesting, and some of the stuff from the commentary. So let's actually get to the actual film, shall we? You have the epilogue and prologue segments, like I mentioned. They have Joe King, this kid right here, and he's a big fan of Creepshow Comics, but his dad Tom Atkins isn't. And like I said, he's kind of a drunk. He's kind of an abusive father, smacking him around because he's reading those horror books. And so he throws the comic book away. And then you get this really awesome opening credit sequence. Although I have to admit, just like the commentary said, George Romero and Tom Savini, the credits do go by a little bit quick. I thought that was pretty funny. George Romero, like during the commentary, is like, I always thought the credits went by a little bit too quick because you'd be like, oh, Hal Hole, what? It would appear and then fade away really quickly. But it has some great artwork and an excellent score by John Harrison. I love this score by John Harrison for Creepshow. I think it's one of the most underrated horror scores out there. It's just an excellent score. It creates a great mood. I love the opening theme. It's just wonderful, and it's a real wonder to listen to. And then I also really like the little bits of other score that he used for the other segments in the film, like the score that's used in little bits and pieces in Father's Day, the score that's used really well in the crates. I mean, it just did such an amazing job. It was such an eclectic score, and a lot of it was piano too, and it was just great. I love that score. I think it's very underrated. Now, so you have that wonderful opening credits score, which I love, with the animation and of course you get introduced. Of course, the creep shows up at the door and introduce, and Stephen King's son is like this, and I kind of, and of course that's what happens before the opening credits. You're introduced to the creep, and I just love the way the whole movie opens up. It's great. It's great fun, and it does feel like a comic book come to life, and that's everything I love about the film, and I think that's what makes it and unique, is that it literally does feel like a comic book come to life because of the panels, the way it's edited. They use comic book paneling in the film. In certain edits, in certain parts in the film, the pages flip like you're reading a comic book, and um, after every segment is over, they have a little bit of image superimposed, and it becomes a comic, and then the pages flip, and there's animated sequences that makes it look like you get to actually see the comic itself open up, and it's really unique in that regard. I don't think I've seen another film like Creepshow. Even Creepshow 2 didn't. It had a little bit of that, but it wasn't nearly as I think as I like Creepshow too, but it wasn't nearly as well done as well. Not even well done, but I'd say not nearly as finely crafted as it was in Creepshow. Creepshow, there was some of the stuff in the artwork in this, and the segment, in the editing, and the way that it transitioned from the next segment to the next was just a work of art. It was you don't see that nowadays. It would be CGI and it would look like shit. Here they actually use panels, actual cell animation, and I love how Romero and Gornick ended up actually just using the lighting and making even just the tilted angles of the camera and all these different different colored lighting to emphasize this comic book feel, and that just added to the entertainment factor for me for creep shows, because it literally does look like a horror comic book from the 50s, an EC comic, Tales from the Crypt comic, come to life on the big screen, and it's a really quite a wonder to behold. Anyway, so you have that epilogue scene, the not the epilogue, I mean, the epilogue's afterwards. You have the intro, the prologue with Joe King and Tom Atkins, and then you have the opening credits with the John Harrison score. Then you get to the first segment, which is Father's Day, which I've kind of soured on a little bit after all these years. I mean, I still like it, but I would have to admit it's the weakest of the segments. For me personally, it used to be Jordy Verrill that was the weakest, but that's grown on me. No pun intended. It's grown on me. And Father's Day has become, I have that little in joke with Father's Day to have with my own dad, but the best thing about it, even though it's kind of a weak segment, it's still memorable. And there's no reason why this is such a great movie. You got 5 segments, and even the weakest one is still memorable. I mean, I still remember Father's Day. I still remember the first time when Nathan popped out of the grave and choked Bedelia out, because it scared the shit out of me as a kid. I remember that makeup design, the rotting corpse. I remember that. And I remember, it's Father's Day and I want my cake. I remember, the whole stuff with Nathan Grantham cracking his cane. And he's such an old bastard. And I remember when I first saw it for the first time, I'd never seen older, actors or somebody who could be my grandfather be such a filthy mouthed asshole. you bitch! I want my cake, Bedelia, you bitch! And you're like, whoa, what a dick. Grandpa's an asshole. I've never seen that before. And of course, I've seen a bunch of movies afterwards that I know that's not that rare. But as a kid, I didn't know that. And the score, I really like the way that's built up. I remember Ed Harris dancing like a dumbass. It's hilarious. And I remember the way he dies, which is fucking stupid. So even though it's the weakest segment, it's still memorable. That's a testament to how great Creepshow is. And anyway, Father's Day, like I said, it's a pretty weak segment. Father's Day opens up with sort of a narration with Sylvia Grantham, where she's telling who's played by Carrie Nye, and she's telling the story about Aunt Bedelia to these house guests, which are Ed Harris. Actually, Carrie Nye does not. I think that's the other. No, that is, yeah. Elizabeth Regan plays Cass, and Warner Shook plays Richard. So Cass and Richard and Hank, played by Ed Harris, are house guests here, and they're waiting for Bedelia to show up for dinner. And while they're waiting for her to show up, Carrie Nye is telling them the story about what happened to Nathan, that Bedelia murdered him because he ended up getting her boyfriend killed on a safari. And so she tells that story, and then you cut to Bedelia going to visit his grave, and which is kind of like, why is she visiting his grave? He's an asshole. And I guess he just goes to his grave every now and then just to chew him out. And that's where Viveca Lindfors just completely just improv'd everything. And she's drinking and she pours alcohol on the grave. And I like this joke that my friend Matt made in the commentary. You'll find out later. And I think it was pretty funny. It's like, why did she, why did she just piss on it or something? I mean, it's like she hates him that much. Why doesn't she just walk up and just take a piss? Take a piss on Daddy's grave. I was like, that was a good one, man. It was pretty funny. Anyway, and then I like the joke that George Romero and Tom Savini made on the commentary on this DVD, where they're all like, of all the things that brought him back to life, it was booze. Like, yeah, it was booze. Alcohol brought him back from the dead. And so that's where he comes out of the ground, played by John Amplas, except for a close-up shot, which isn't played by John Amplas, which has maggots writhing on the face of the Nathan Grantham corpse, because John Amplas didn't want anything to do with maggots. So the scenes with John Amplas, those aren't real maggots, they're Rice Krispies. Mmm. So next time when you have some Rice Krispies, try not to think, oh, I'm eating maggots. No, they're actually Rice Krispies. I thought that was pretty funny. Next time you make some Rice Krispies treats, say, no, they're maggot treats. And see what people's reactions are. Anyway, so he pops out of the grave, kills Bedelia, and then you cut to like Ed Harris dancing like a moron, like can't let go, da 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 da. It's totally a '70s song, and it's such a surreal moment in this movie. It's just Ed Harris dancing like an idiot. It's hilarious. And he goes out to check on Bedelia, and then he dies in the most dumbass way possible. He slips and he falls into like an open grave. And then what he does is he's just laying there. And he's laying there what seems like forever. And then he's watching as this stone, big giant fucking gravestone above his head just starts slowly moving forward. And he's all like, oh, he's just sitting there. The score is great by John Harrison. It just sets a good sets a good mood. It's like da dun dun da dun dun da dun dun da dun dun. It's just like da dun dun da dun dun. It just keeps on building, but it's still ridiculous because you just see Ed Harris just sitting there like, and the gravestone's like, it's like the slowest moving gravestone ever. It's like, and you're like, Ed Harris, get up off your ass and get out of there. He had plenty of time to get up off his ass and get out and not die, but he's just sitting there. I think I'm gonna die. I think I'm just gonna die now. Just sitting there, and then he puts his hand over, and he finds Bedelia's dead hand, and then she falls over on top of him, and he's like, ah! And then the gravestone's still slowly moving. I'm like, oh my God, Ed Harris, come on, man. And and then of course the gravestone falls on his head, and then makes a squish noise. Yeah, and then you find out that Nathan's corpse was using his mind to move the graves. I didn't know zombies or undead people were also had telekinetic abilities, but hey, I'll take it. But I mean, I remember that scene, but it is lame. It's a lame ass death scene because Ed Harris is just sitting there like, oh, well, for what seems like forever, and then the gravestone finally topples over and kills his ass. It serves you right for being, I don't know, fucking all of a sudden becoming randomly paralyzed. I guess you're paralyzed with fear, I guess. But did Nathan also make it so he can't move? But anyway, I remember that, even though it is pretty shitty. I gotta be honest, and it's not even that gory either. It's not like you see like blood of rain that comes out afterwards. And so after that, then you have Warner Shook, who is and goes in to get some more alcohol. And I like this. I like the line of dialogue he makes when he walks into the kitchen and the lights are off. And he's like, "What are we doing? Conserving energy?" And then you end up. Then you get the twist where there literally is a twist in the end where Nathan shows up, finds Carrie Nye, snaps her neck, and a good nice neck twist, turns her head 360 degrees around, and then of course she puts her head on a birthday cake, and then opens the door and scares the crap out of Warner Shook and the actress who played Cassie, who's played by Cass, played by Elizabeth Reagan. And I love the shock lines that go behind their heads. They're like, oh my God, like, it's Father's Day, and I've got my cake. It's like, oh, and then that's the end of that segment. And then Father's Day is a weak segment, but I still remember it. Good makeup effects by Tom Savini on the corpse. Um, I like Warner Shook. He's a better actor in this than he is a director. He directed a piece of shit Tales of the Dark Side episode, Grandma's Last Wish. Episode sucked. And so I think he's a better actor than he is a director. And excuse me, I just feel like it's just uneven and it's driving me nuts. Like uh I'm self-conscious. But anyway, it's still uneven, but whatever, fuck it. But anyway, so I really do think that this is the weakest segment. But hey, they got it over with first, so then it gets better as it goes along. Second segment is the one that really grew on me, The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's like a cartoon. Like Giorgio Romero asked Stephen King to do. He said, "Play it like you're Wile E. Coyote," and he does, and it's a lot of fun. Oh Geordie, you lunkhead. And he's all like, "Oh, a meteor!" He finds a meteor, and he gets some stuff on his hands, like, "Ew, meteor shit." I always crack up when Stephen King says meteor shit. You gotta laugh at that. And I love the flashbacks that he has, where he's like, he's gonna go to the Department of Meteors and get like $200 for a meteor. And then when he breaks it, then he goes back there and his flashback is bad now. I always remember that where the guy's like, $200 for a broken meteor? I wouldn't give you 2 cents. and just Stephen King's cartoonish, mannerisms are hilarious. And he goes in and pretty much this meteor, and he ends up getting this liquid all over him, and he pours it out on his lawn, and ends up growing this grass-like substance, which I thought was really unique too. Is that how many movies or segments can you think of where this sort of outer space plant ends up just infesting and taking over everything, like a just outer space weed that not only takes over the land but also takes over you? And that was pretty scary. And I guess Tom Savini wanted to do so much more with Stephen King, but he had so much problems with the makeup, so he didn't really do much with that segment. A lot of other crew members worked on that segment rather than Tom. Tom had these lenses he was going to put in, creepy lenses that was going to put in Stephen King's eyes, but his eyes were too tight, so they couldn't put him in. He was too nervous, and they made a fake tongue for him, but it didn't work. Also, the appliances they put on his face, they made him itch. That he was allergic to some of the things that were in them. So it seemed like it was kind of hard for them to deal with it. So it's pretty amazing that they were able to do as much as they did. Um, and I think a lot of the grass was like astroturf or a mix of that and some other kind of other stuff. So what happens is, of course, he gets some of the liquid on his fingers. He starts sucking it, and what happens in the segment is a pretty short segment, but a fun segment. And he starts basically, his whole lawn gets taken over by this outer space weed, and then he starts to take over himself. It starts to grow on his body. It even grows on his tongue, grows on his hands. Um, when it grows on his hands, he has another fantasy where he goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like sharpening this, giant machete. He's like, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to cut it off. He's like, oh no, and it's gonna have to come off, no. And then he ends up he ends up running a bath, and the grass has grown so much it's kind of created sort of a shaggy grass beard on his face. And he goes into the bathroom, and then he has a hallucination or sees an image of his dad telling him, "Don't do it, Jordy. Don't go in the water, or that will be the death of you." And of course, Jordy's like, "But Daddy, it's so warm and inviting. Don't do it." But it itches. And I also love the little bit of line of dialogue where when he strips down and go into the bathtub, that's when he realizes, "Oh no, not there." He's like, oh no, not there, which means there's some grass on his pubes or grass on his dick. Oh, is that where Stephen King got his idea for the Lawnmower Man short story? Is from this segment of Creepshow? Who knows? I do know that Castle Rock makes its first appearance at the end of this segment on a sign, so that's interesting. That actually didn't appear until this film. So anyway, so what happens is Jordy's a lunkhead and he gets into the water and and then the next scene I thought was really well handled. And that's another thing that makes this film so great is because it not only does a great job handling, the horror, the creepy elements, and it also does a great fun sense of humor about it, or a sense of fun and levity, but also when it needs to be serious, it is. And the fact that it isn't so, I think that what makes it work so well, Creepshow, it's like it's not just straight up laughy, jokey, tongue-in-cheek humor horror. It's a lot of that as well, but it also has some serious moments. But then again, it's not overwhelmingly serious or dark or bleak. So then it has a nice balance. And so when the moments happen where it is serious, where it is bleak, it really does have a lot more impact than it would if it was just nothing but bleak or nothing but just jokey stuff. I mean, with any genre of film, if you're considered a classic, I think you have to think about that a lot of them they have good balances. They're not uneven, and I think Creepshow is a good balance of those elements because I think this is a very memorable ending for this, jokey, cartoonish segment. When you see Jordy is now the weed is completely taken over his body now. He's not even human anymore. He's become some kind of plant monster. And he's got a shotgun to his head, and he's like, please, please, God, just this once, please. And then he pulls the trigger and blows his head off. It's a pretty bleak and intense ending for such a jokey, over the top segment, but it works really well because I think it's really well handled. So yeah, that's another reason why that segment's grown on me. So I like that segment. That's the second segment. Now the third segment is there's something that tied you over. which is one that I enjoy. Ted Danson is great. He's a very likable character. You feel for him. Leslie Nielsen plays a great asshole in this. This rich fuck who owns a private beach and he uses it to drown people to death and record their drownings. I mean, what a fucking asshole. And he keeps all these like snuff films and in his apartment and in his condo on the beach. It's not really apartment, his condo on the beach. And he takes Ted Danson because Ted Danson's wondering what happened to his girlfriend. Takes him to the beach. He buries him up to his neck. And the whole idea of this is pretty creepy to me. It's pretty terrifying. And this rich guy, asshole guy, comes in and takes you and forcibly buries you up to your neck on a beach that he owns just to drown your ass for his amusement. It's pretty fucked up. And I Leslie Nielsen just is a great in this, and it was some pretty funny commentary, on this DVD where George Romero and Tom Savini are talking about how Leslie Nielsen just loved to use this fart machine on the set. Like anytime that he wanted to cheer himself up, he would use this fart machine, and you just made it would just crack him up, and he was cracking up people before takes and everything, and it's kind of, can you imagine the image of Leslie Nielsen, who's playing this cold, sadistic bastard in this segment, and he's when he's not shooting, he's like playing with a fart machine. It's hilarious. He's like, just like, it's pretty funny. I don't really find farts that funny, but man, if Leslie Nielsen was playing with a fart machine, I'd find it funny because Leslie Nielsen is funny. May he rest in peace. He's a great comedian, great actor too, and this is a great example of that. How many times does Leslie Nielsen get the chance to play a bad guy? Not very often, and he does a really good job here. And he's very despicable and completely unlikable, but he's another guy that you love to hate. Too bad. They've all gone blah, 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 blah. Or the whole thing where he's like, scream all you want, Harry. No one's going to hear you. Help! Help! See? No one's going to hear you. It's my private beach house property. Scream all you want, Harry. No one is going to hear you. You're like, what a dick. And then what happens is he ends up killing Ted Danson, drowns him, and then Ted Danson and his girlfriend Gaylen Ross, they come back from the dead. Good makeup by Tom Savini, where they're all looking waterlogged and everything. They come back from the dead, and they end up killing Leslie Nielsen. And the fun scene where they come up and go after him after he got out of his shower, and it's all like, hey, it's showtime, it's showtime, which is funny. Yeah, it's showtime, Richard. And it's showtime is something that Richard said to Harry and Ted Danson. And I was like, hey, did Tim Burton watch this movie for, get inspiration for lines for Beetlejuice? It's showtime. That's actually not the first movie to make that a tagline or a quip in a film. Creepshow did it first, which that was interesting. And they come in, Ted Danson and Gaylen Ross come in and go, they're like, you drowned me, it's pretty good. I don't know if they have the quote on IMDb or not. I think I'll look that up real quick to see if they have the quote. I don't really remember everything that they said, but I'm gonna look it up real quick. See if they have it. This one. Richard's like, I'll shoot you dead. You can't shoot us dead, Richard, because we're already dead. We want to see you, Richard. We dug a hole for you, Richard, on the beach. It's like, no! No! And I love how Leslie Nielsen goes from like scared shitless to just laughing his ass off in like 2 seconds. It's like, no! No! And then they end up getting him, and then they put him, in the beach up to his neck. And I like the way that this segment ends where he's all like, I can hold my breath for a long, long time. And then that's the end of the segment. I like that segment too. It's good. Leslie Nielsen plays a great asshole. Definitely there's a good abundance of villains that you love to hate in this movie. Leslie Nielsen is one of them. Ted Danson is good, and some good makeup effects with Tom Savini and good comeuppance, and yeah, good episode, good segment. And I'm not the only one that says episode. Tom Savini called them episodes in the commentary, so that makes me feel a little bit better. But anyway, about my mistakes. But anyway, great segment. And then after Something That Tied You Over is my favorite segment of the entire movie, The Crate. I love The Crate. I love this segment. It's so much fun. And for anybody who's married and has dealt with a bitchy wife, I mean, this is just totally a fantasy. It's totally a fantasy fulfilled. The scenes where Hal Holbrook just, indulges in his fantasies of killing his wife. It's morbid, but it's so fucking wonderful. Because Adrienne Barbeau is the sweetest, sweetie pie in real life, but she just lets it all hang out. It's just the biggest bitch of all in this segment, and you feel so badly for Hal Holbrook's character Henry. You're just like, man, he just gives a raw deal. And I like how my friend Matt said, when we did the commentary track for this, he's all like, why doesn't he just divorce her? It's like, yeah, you do have a point. Why doesn't he just divorce her? But what happens is the crate is there's a crate that's found underneath the stairway in a university, and Friz Weaver was one of these professors there, and they're doing some closing up work at the university, and what happens is he ends up bringing the crate out, and his janitor ends up looking in, and then he gets eaten by the monster in the crate, Fluffy, which is the nickname that Tom Savini gave for the creature, which is the first animatronic makeup effect that Tom Savini ever did. And in fact, he had no idea how to do it, so he ended up calling up Rob Bottin. He called Rob Bottin on the phone, and he asked him like, what how do I do this? And Rob Bottin gave him pointers. He talked to Tom Savini for an hour and a half on the phone, teaching him how to build an animatronic monster. And actually he went in for a little bit and visited Rob Bottin and saw his work on The Howling, and Rob Bottin taught him a little bit on set, a little bit there. But yeah, Rob Bottin's a little bit responsible for Fluffy helping Tom Savini put it together. I think Tom Savini did a great job, and Tom Savini actually fucked up his thumb. One of his thumbs can't really bend very well, because George Romero asked him to build this bronze claw for Fluffy that could like break shit. And so he asked him to build that, and when Tom Savini used it one time, he fucked up his thumb. Just find that a funny bit of business there as well. It's not really funny, but I mean, it sucks. I think it was interesting bit of trivia. So anyway, so he created Fluffy, and Fluffy only had and Tom Savini was a little bit disappointed that Fluffy didn't have a lot of screen time. But I'm glad he didn't, because it worked the best when it was just in small doses. And I thought the Fluffy creature was scary. I mean, it's kind of silly looking when you look at it, but still, the thing is fucking got a jaw so big it'll eat your ass whole. I'm pretty scared of that thing, especially if it's hungry. But I admit, I would buy a stuffed plush toy of Fluffy. I would fucking buy the shit out of a stuffed plush toy of Fluffy. Who wouldn't? Get in on that, Warner Brothers. Whoever has the rights to, come on. It's called Fluffy. It totally makes perfect sense for horror fans or fans of Creepshow to have a little, like, it could be little or it could be a little bit bigger, stuffed plush toy of Fluffy. Come on, you can do that. You got stuffed plush toys of Chucky, and why not Fluffy? It's a match made in heaven. Stuffed plush Fluffy. Come on, get in on that already. Anyway, so what happens is the poor janitor Mike, I get eaten by Fluffy, and he dies, and it's pretty bloody too. And then Friz Weaver's cleaning all this up, and I love the scene where he goes in and meets with this one guy who's working at school, and he's just distraught. He's like, it came in, and I like the other guys. Is like, whoa, Professor, you've been on a hell of a toot. Come on. Hell of a toot. That's funny. And so the guy, then he's curious, and so he goes in and tries to look at the crate, see what's going on in the crate, and Fluffy pops out of the crate and just mauls him. Good effect too. Rakes across his face. claws his face off, bites a hole in his neck, and a nice little bit of gore. And this is the goriest segment in the film, without a doubt. And then after that happens, of course, Friz Weaver is scared shitless, and he goes in and meets up with his friend Henry, played by Hal Holbrook. And all the while, of course, you had the crate stuff is going on. You had the really fun fantasy sequences with Hal Holbrook, like he's going on a party with Billy, and she's giving him shit, and he fantasizes that he pulls out a gun and just shoots her in the head. And I love how it's just so surreal and wonderful. He shoots her in the head, and then all of the people at the party are just like, and then Hal Holbrook just gives this smile like, it's great. Then he has another fantasy where he ends up choking her out. And then basically what happens is he gets contacted by his friend Friz Weaver, and he comes up with the idea that he's going to use the crate to get rid of his bitchy wife. And it's a perfect plan. And he ends up drugging his friend, and he goes to the university, cleans up the blood, leaves a note to his wife, Adrienne Barbeau, the bitch, telling her to come over, and because there's a girl who is trapped under the stairs, she needs her help. And I love the way that sequence is edited, where it's edited with a cross cut with this great narration by Hal Holbrook. And another thing that makes this whole sequence and the whole film work really well is just great acting. Excellent performances by the cast members in this film. They knew they were making a horror film, but especially in this segment, The Crate, the reason why it works so much is because the actors believe in it so much. They believe that they're doing something that's great. They don't believe that they're doing something that's some, really shitty thing, or some, something that's beneath them. Hal Holbrook and Friz Weaver just own their roles in this, especially Hal Holbrook. It wouldn't work nearly as well or be as memorable if it wasn't for Hal Holbrook just completely owning this role as Henry. And so I love the way that's set, that the score and everything. I love the way that lead up scene is edited. And then Billy comes to the university, checks I love how Holbrook can't hold his own laughter, while he's telling her about this story. He's making up on the fly. You see, she went under the stairs and she's so scared that she won't come out. I love that. And I love how it's set up, how Billy goes under the stairs and he puts, why don't you go take a look? And he shoves her down there. And then the Fluffy doesn't come out of the crate right away. So I love how Holbrook just takes Adrienne Barbeau and just slams her against the crate like 5 or 6 times, and then leaves her there. And then I love how Adrienne Barbeau afterwards is like, yeah, really, Henry? Huh? What is this, the Friday night fights? Huh? You want to see a fight? I'll show you a fight. He hits him with the purse. He's like, you know what? You know what, Henry? You want to do this again? I'll have your balls for earrings. And you're like, oh my God, it didn't work. Man, and I just love the look on Hal Holbrook's face. Like, what? Maybe my friend was wrong. There is no Fluffy. And then finally the creature does wake up and then eats Adrienne Barbeau. It eats the bitch. And I thought it was really handled really well, because it was a good way of delaying the gratification. It wasn't right away. It wasn't lazy. It could have easily. That's the reason why it's so memorable. Is because how often do you get that in this type of horror film and this type of sequence? A lot of the time you just see, oh, Jack in the Box pops out of the crate, eats the person, that's it. But that's not what happened here. And it had a great moment of levity, and a moment where maybe you're questioning the whole Friz Weaver story. And I really like that. I really like that segment. And that piece of the segment. I love this segment too. It's a great segment. So after Fluffy eats a bitch, then Hal Holbrook cleans up everything, and he ends up chaining Fluffy in his crate, and then gets ready to take him and dumps him off into this quarry somewhere, which it was really kind of stupid. I mean, it's like, if he stayed in a crate for so many years and lived, do you really think a fucking quarry is gonna stop him? And of course it doesn't. But then he goes back to his friend Friz Weaver's house. And of course Friz Weaver, I just wanted to find his character real quick. Of course, his character, who is played Dexter, goes over to Dexter Stanley's house, tells him the story, and Dexter decides, I'm not gonna call the cops. What are friends for? It's like, you know what, Dexter, though, I'm still gonna kick your butt and chest. And then of course, then the monster breaks out of the crate, and then that's the end of that segment. And what's interesting about that segment is that originally when the monster broke out of the crate and the water bubbled up, there was originally supposed to be a scene where Adrienne Barbeau's face or a head bubbles up through the water, and Tom Savini had even done an effect, but it looked terrible. So they just cut the shot of the creature's eyes inside the crate, which is a great shot anyway, and they used that for the ending of that segment instead. But anyway, love the crate. My favorite segment in the film, hands down. And then you have the last segment. They're creeping up on you, which is still a great segment. It's a really good segment. E.G. Marshall plays a great bastard in this. Upson Pratt, such a fucking dick. And great stuff like this. Like this whole scene where pretty much what he is he's this rich asshole who lives in this really unique, hermetically sealed apartment, which is all white, and he's this really germaphobe type guy, and he always mentions how all these people around him are bugs, which is great, and he steps on people all the time. Like this one poor guy's on vacation, and he's giving him shit, and he's like, unless you want to take your kids to Disneyland and your welfare check, you're gonna get exterminated over here right tonight. Got it? And I'm like, what a dick. And so he treats everyone like insects. And so it's fitting that he would meet his end by insects. And there's this one scene, these quotes are just perfect for how much of an asshole this guy is. He's talking around it. He's trying to get on the phone with Reynolds or White, who are these guys, on the. Oh, this is the one from the guy from Florida. He's like, Carl Reynolds is calling, and he's on the phone. It's Carl Reynolds, sir. I'm calling for Orlando, Florida. And Upson's like, Orlando, Florida? And Carl's like, yes, the wife and I decided to take the kids to Disney World this year. Upson's like, I don't give a fuck if you decide to take the kids to Attica this year. There are still roaches in this place, Reynolds. I killed one not 5 minutes ago. And Reynolds like, do you like your job, Reynolds? Sir, I've spoken to Mr. White, who's on desk tonight. Do you like your job, Reynolds? Yes, sir. I'm glad to hear it, because I want to see White. Mr. Pratt, it's almost 9:45, and if I don't see White and the exterminators in the span of a half an hour, you will have no job by midnight tonight. Do you understand me? Then next year you can take the wife and kids to Disney World on your fucking welfare check. Have you got that? Are we together on this? Like, what a fucking asshole. And so what happens is over the course of the segment is he's dealing with all these calls and being a general fucking old dick. And what happens is these cockroaches start appearing out of the woodwork in his house, in his hermetically sealed, germ-free apartment. And so he's trying to get people to take care of it. And I also like the little subtle touches in this segment. And this is a segment that George Romero and Tom Savini were worried that they were not going to be able to even do. They were worried that it was going to be they weren't be able to do it because it was going to be too much money, or it would be too ineffective, or they weren't be able to get enough insects, they weren't be able to do it. But the studio gave them a little bit more money, and they were able to do it, which is great. It's a great segment. It's very memorable. Great way to end the movie. It's called Creepshow, and it ends with a segment about some of the creepiest things out there and cockroaches. And so what happens is, where you're having, there's, like I was mentioning earlier, I like these really subtle touches where, Upson Pratt's such a cantankerous old bastard, but he's listening to like this, really lighthearted music on his jukebox, which is kind of a nice little touch to his character. And while he's dealing with this bug problem, now he's trying to get other people to come with exterminators. And I like this whole segment where thinks Reynolds or White is on the phone. He's like, Reynolds, White, talk to me. And then Lenora Castemeyer shows up her voice shows up on the other end of the intercom. It's like, I just called to tell you what a monster you are, Mr. Pratt, and how I will rejoice when you're finally dead. Upson like, oh, lots of people are going to rejoice when I'm dead. Who are you? Lenora Kastenmeyer. I'm the wife of the man you murdered this afternoon. Oh, Mrs. Kastenmeyer, how are you? I hope they keep hell hot for you, you son of a bitch! I hope they do! It wasn't enough for you to drive him to his knees, was it? No, you had to kill him as well! He came home and his eyes, and I just love how much of a dick he is. He's playing a small violin. And he's like, his eyes were so dead. I asked him what was wrong. What could be so bad to make his eyes look that way? And the only word he could say was your name. And 10 minutes later, I heard the shot. Yes, George Gendron told me old Norman went out with a bang. How many men have you destroyed? How many men have you killed, you monster? Only the stupid ones. Only the ones who handed me a knife and then stretched out their throats. Only the ones who, if you'll pardon the expression, fucked up. Now, if you excuse me, I've got this bug problem, so we'll have to defer your charming conversation for another time. I hope you die! By the way, I hope you get cancer in the worst place, Mrs. Kastenmeyer. Syphilis, leprosy, scream in hell forever, you monster! Mrs. Katzenjammer, would you mind telling me who gave you my private number? I'd like to fire him. It was in my husband's address book, you son of a bitch! Well, I can't fire him, can I? God. Just want to smack him in the face and just punch him for a couple rounds because he's such a dick, but at the same time, you love him. You love to hate Upson Pratt. E.G. Marshall is great in this role. And then, he's going around and he realizes he's eating bugs in one scene. And, they're all bugs. All of them. You think they come out of nowhere. Everyone. They're all bugs. Gotta take care of them. Gotta take care of them. And and then what happens is the power goes out. And then the bugs just go crazy. Cockroaches everywhere. And they fill up the jukebox. And the Epsom Pratt's like, they're all over me. Ah! And he calls, of course, Mr. White, who's played by Early, the actor David Early. And I always remember the way how they're speaking through the little hole, like the eye hole thing, like on the doors, like, hello, Mr. Pratt. Nice day. Huh? Okay, I always remember that. It's like, and so what happens? The power goes out, and the power goes back on. And the power goes out, and the cockroaches are coming out to play, and the bugs are getting their revenge. And then Mr. Pratt gets into he thinks his sealed room, and then he hears this thing on his loudspeaker where it's Kastenmeyer again. I hope you die. And then the bugs just take over him completely. And then actually, I think that might have happened afterwards, as the bugs take over everything. And then Early comes in, Mr. White comes in to tell him about the exterminator, and the guys he realizes that Upson's not answering the phone. I think he calls him you old bastard. And then you cut to his bed, and then you see you see his body, and then you see like a little bit of blood, and then the cockroaches just come pouring out of his chest, and it's just ugh. Still gives me the creeps. And I'm not the only one, because when that scene happened, even Giorgio Romero and Tom Savini were like, ah! And so I thought that was great. And so Upson Pratt definitely does get his comeuppance, and that's when, before the cockroaches spill out, that's when you get Kastenmeyer on the phone again, where she's like, I hope you die! And then, like, ah! And then you cut to the comic book getting picked up by the trash guys. One of them is played by Tom Savini, and they pick up the comic book. The trash guys do, and I always remember the line when the trash guys, he's like, smacks the trash compactor machine. He's like, swallow your food. And Tom Savini's all like, hey, hey, we could order that. Oh, it looks like the voodoo doll. Oh, so somebody's already signed for it. And then you cut to Tom Atkins, kind of being a little bit, kind of still being an asshole, really. I mean, kind of a dick dad. And then you see him experience some pain. And then you see Joe King with a needle and the voodoo doll being like, that'll teach you to throw away my comic books. And then that's the end of Creepshow, and then you get the great score by John Harrison, and then you get to see the end credits where one of the people who worked on the movie's name was Michael Brown. Hey, man, that's the reason why I love it so much is because I worked on it. No, I wish I worked on the film, but no, I didn't. But yeah, so that's Creepshow. One more little fun little bit of trivia that I heard in the commentary I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention in the There's Something That Tied You Over segment is that there was a fun joke that was going around where Gaylen Ross and Ted Danson, when they were in the makeup for the undead corpses, the waterlogged corpses, they were just talking in like dumb southern accents for some reason, and they were just like, "Hey." It's just pretty funny. Can you imagine that? Just they're in these like really kind of scary looking at makeup, and here they are talking about, let's go to the beach. Hey, Richard, let's go to the beach, Richard. Let's go down to the beach, Richard. You drowned us. We're gonna drown you, Richard. Let's go down to the beach. I thought that was pretty funny. And yeah, so that's Creepshow. Like I said, I've talked over an hour. Like I said, it's gonna be as long as it's gonna be. I love this movie. So, but anyway, it's my favorite horror film. So, but anyway, now I'm gonna go get to the whole why I think it's great. Why I think it's great because it's it's fun. Like the tagline says, it's the most fun you'll ever have being scared. It is. It's so entertaining. It's totally like a comic book come to life. It's total. If you like Tales from the Crypt, you're gonna love this. If you haven't seen it already, it's a really good blend of fun horror, and I miss that with a lot of horror films lately. You just think they can just throw seriousness or jump scares and gore and just call it a day. No, I want some fun, and I want some fun, likable characters, or at least if you have some assholes, make them ones that I love to hate, like Upson Pratt or Leslie Nielsen's character in this movie. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons. It's just a lot of fun to watch. It's very entertaining. Another reason why is because it's just really well written and well performed. Great acting. It's a huge thing, one a big thing, especially for segments like The Crate. Great performances. Actors that actually care about what they're doing and actually, love their craft and actually are going gung ho with the project, no matter how silly they might think it is. It's great. The score, John Harrison's score is fantastic. It's like the cherry on top of the sundae for me. And also just the passion. You could tell that everyone behind it was just having so much fun. And another thing is that it's unique. How unique it is. The whole way it's edited, like it's a comic book come to life, is unique, and it's really really a sight to behold just to literally see a comic book come to life on the screen. It's great. It's great fun. So that's the main thing. It's so much fun. I think that's the main reason why I find it to be such a great film and my favorite horror film, because believe it or not, my favorite horror films, the majority of them are just horror films that are also a lot of fun to watch. The Blob remake, it's scary when it needs to be, but it's also a blast and a lot of fun to watch. Even The Thing, it's scary and it's well done. John Carpenter's The Thing, but it's also a lot of fun to watch. Um, I think that's a big thing for a lot of my favorite horror films is that they're a lot of fun to watch. The Exorcist I like a lot, but there are moments where it's kind of fun to watch too. There's some good kind of little underrated bits of comedy in some scenes in that film, and just there's this, maybe that's a little more of a serious horror film, but it's not to say that I don't like a serious horror film, a good, well-made serious horror film. But, for example, look at Delivers from Evil. I really enjoyed that, and I think that's because it got a good balance. It was serious and dramatic, but at the same time, it had great moments of levity when it needed to have it and make you chuckle a little bit. And then when it needed to be serious, it did a great job. So I think that's one of the things that Creepshow does a great job. It's balance. It balances out the humorous and the comic booky moments with serious moments when they need to be, and some great performances and great direction by Georgia Romero, and just all around just a great amaglam, a great smorgasbord of wonderful, jolting tales of horror with Georgie Romero directing and Stephen King writing. It's just a great collaboration and a very unique collaboration and a very unique film, and just my favorite horror film. And And I have a lot of not only great memories associated with watching it, but great memories associated with talking about it. The first time I ever talked to my friend Matt, and the first time we ever actually talked together was on a podcast where I talked about Creepshow. So I mean that's really cool. So yeah, actually I think that might have been the second podcast we did. The first one we did, we talked about some other stuff, but like how bad but he talked about how bad X-Files 2 was. I want to believe this movie isn't a complete piece of shit. But anyway, I really don't know what to say about Creepshow. I've gone on for almost an hour and a half, and all I gotta do now is give it my final rating. It gets 5 out of 5 stars, 2 thumbs up. Love this movie to death. It's my all-time favorite horror film. I love it. It's so much fun. It's entertaining. It is definitely not false advertising. Like it says on the poster, Creepshow is the most fun you will ever have being scared. So thank you for watching my long in-depth review / retrospective of Creepshow. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys later. See ya.